With the New York Giants sitting at 2-7 and all hopes of the playoffs pretty much dead, I thought it would be a good opportunity on today's show to look forward and look ahead at players that the Giants could sign in free agency coming up this spring. Before we dive into that, though, I want to hear from you. Outside of quarterback, which is clearly the biggest need on this football team, what do you think is the Giants' second biggest need? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. I appreciate everybody for stopping by as we look ahead to 2025 free agency and we try to figure out some players the Giants can pursue to improve this roster. So in the season of 2025, the Giants don't start 2-6 like they have 6 out of the last 7 years. At this moment, Over the Cap projects the Giants to have $47.1 million in cap space, while Spotrac projects $45 million in cap space. So we can assume that the Giants are going to have somewhere around $46 million to spend in free agency and to build out this roster. Well, the Giants, they can also create more cap space. As you know, most likely that if the Giants do cut Daniel Jones, they will save an additional $19.3 million in space while holding on to a cap hit of $41 million if he remains on this football team. The Giants are going to cut Daniel Jones. They are going to save $19.3 million, and they will enter free agency with approximately $65.3 million in cap space and assets to improve this roster. That is plenty enough money to go out and fill multiple needs with high, talented, and productive players. I believe at this moment that the 5 biggest needs for this organization include quarterback, offensive tackle, or guard. I don't think you sign a guard and a tackle to a premium contract. I think it's one or the other. If you sign a tackle, you move Illuminor to right guard. If you sign a right guard, you keep Illuminor at right tackle. I also think receiver remains a big need on this team. I also think defensive tackle 2 next to Dexter Lawrence is a major need. And cornerback, once again, is an area where the Giants need to improve. Let's start with the quarterback position. We are going to operate this video as if Daniel Jones has been blasted to the sun and he is no longer a part of this football team. Thank you, God. All righty, the top 5 quarterbacks that I think are going to be available and make sense for the Giants. Because, look, even if you want to draft a quarterback, you at least need a veteran on this team going into the draft. So what about a guy like Sam Darnold, who I think is going to cash out in free agency after a successful year with the Minnesota Vikings? You have one of the Steelers quarterbacks in Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I don't see a world where both of these guys are back with Pittsburgh. I think Jameis Winston is someone you could look at. And then Marcus Mariota, someone that I think could operate a Brian Daboll offense to a degree higher than what it's been run the past couple of years. And he could be someone that would very willingly usher in the next quarterback of this franchise. But if I had to say who my number 1 free agent quarterback target with Big Blue would be, it would be Russell Wilson. I would go out and do whatever it takes to sign Wilson to be my quarterback potentially for the 2025 season and beyond, but more so that veteran and that bridge quarterback that can help a young QB that you select in the draft, maybe like Cam Ward or Garrett Nussmeier, learn about the Giants, learn about the NFL, and learn what it takes to win a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson has done that. He has been to the Super Bowl 2 times. He looks good in Pittsburgh, and I think he would be a perfect quarterback to help you win games in 2025 while also being the middleman and handing off the job potentially in that same season. If Wilson is back with the Steelers, I would look at a guy like Justin Fields or Mariota. On the offensive line, the Giants still need to improve. Greg Van Roten is a veteran. He is most likely going to retire after this season. And even if he doesn't, retirement will be right around the corner, and you need to improve at that right guard spot. Or you can improve at right tackle and bump Illuminor to right guard. The top 5 offensive linemen that do not play center, in my opinion, are Zach Martin, Trey Smith, Alaric Jackson, Cam Robinson, and Garrett Bowles. I would love for the Giants to go out and get Zach Martin, steal a Dallas Cowboy, and have him resurge his career in Big Blue. But my number 1 offensive lineman free agent target is the 25-year-old interior offensive lineman, Trey Smith. I think he is one of the better right guards in the National Football League. He's at a premium age of just 25, and he would elevate this offensive line to heights that it has not been since Eli Manning was under center. If you had an offensive line that involved Trey Smith as well as Andrew Thomas with John Michael Schmitz and Jermaine Illuminor with John Runyon, you are a pretty solid offensive line. He's been good throughout his career. He's good in the pass blocking department, and he is a road paver and a mauler. He opens up running lanes consistently for that Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. You might be asking, Marshall, why would the Chiefs let him go? They probably don't want to let him go. But at the end of the day, you can't pay everybody. And maybe he is someone that is a cap casualty for Kansas City, and he may be looking to go get paid elsewhere. And with the Giants having about $65 million in cap space, I would like to allocate some premium dollars to a premium position. And I think Trey Smith would be money at that right guard spot for the future for the Giants. I also see wide receiver as a need for this football team. I'm not bringing back Darius Slayton if I am the general manager for this team. I don't want to pay him $13 million like Darnell Mooney or Gabe Davis got paid. I think that's the range he will be looking. I'm looking for bigger and better. And I think the top 5 guys out there include Tee Higgins, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Deontay Johnson, and Amari Cooper. I love Chris Godwin as a player. I worry about the injuries, and he's a slot guy. And the Giants already have a slot guy in Robinson, and they also want to play neighbors there. Stephon Diggs is a little bit older than I would like. I don't think he fits the window of the Giants. Deontay Johnson could make some sense, as well as a veteran Amari Cooper. But I am going big, or I am going home, and I am going after Tee Higgins. I'm going to go out and give him a bag. I think if you could bring in a young quarterback, you improve on the offensive line, and you give him weapons to use, a la Malik Neighbors, Tee Higgins, as well as Theo Johnson with Tyrone Tracy in the backfield. That is a place and an opportunity and an offense that can thrive with a young quarterback. Tee Higgins is a really good player. He really is. And I understand injuries have gotten in the way, but when he is on the field, he is productive. He, in my opinion, is a top 5 wide receiver 2 in this league. And if you have a cheap quarterback, and you have a cheap wide receiver 1 in Malik Neighbors, you can afford to go out and cash out on another receiver. And, man, if you could have a 1-2 punch of Neighbors and Higgins, who I think complement each other perfectly, that would set up a young quarterback for success. The Giants still need to improve on the defensive line. It can't just be on the interior Dexter Lawrence and a bunch of Jags. They got to go out and get somebody else. Alim McNeil, really solid young player. B.J. Hill, once a Giant, always a Giant. I'll never forgive Dave Gettleman for that trade. D.J. Jones has had some success in this league. And then Tier Tart is someone that I would keep my eyes on as well. I'd love to have a reunion with B.J. Hill, but I'm looking at Alim McNeil. This is someone that is kind of a rising star in this league at the age of 24. So far this year, he's got 12 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. He is an integral part of the interior defensive line for the Detroit Lions. And like we talked about with Smith, he may be a cap casualty for them. If you could put together a defensive line that includes Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, McNeil, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and potentially bringing back Azeez Ojulari, I think you have the best D-line in the NFL, and you are deeper than what you were this past year when you led the NFL in sacks. You need another big body, another hog molly inside that can stuff the run, and you don't have to play Dexter Lawrence 95% of snaps, because in those 5% he has not played the last couple of years. The Giants have had Swiss cheese D. McNeil would provide another run stopper and somewhat of a guy that can also get after the quarterback from the inside spot. You see the pass rushing grades on screen. I want to also spend some time talking about the corner position, because if Deonte Banks is going to be the player that he was this year, which has been a terrible corner, I think he's given up 10 touchdowns this year, or it's 10 touchdowns in the last 2 years, you need another corner. And maybe you address the cornerback position in the draft, but free agency comes first. DJ Reed is looked at as the top corner. I'm not all that interested in a 5'9" corner that plays on the outside. Charvarius Ward, in my opinion, is the best of the crop, but he's a little bit older, and I do think he will change teams. He's 28 and a half years old. He'll be 29 and a half by the time the Giants start the 2025 season. Rasul Douglas is a little bit older for me. Asante Samuel intrigues me, and Dante Jackson is someone I've always had a liking to. If the Giants were trying to win a Super Bowl next year, I'd go all in for Charvarius Ward. But I think the Giants' Super Bowl window is a couple years down the road. So I'm going to take a flyer on a guy in Asante Samuel Jr., who is still just 25 years old And maybe with a new regime coming to town in Los Angeles with Harbaugh and crew, and him somewhat struggling under new defensive coordinator mentor who comes from Michigan with Harbaugh, maybe he's looking for a scenery change. Maybe they're looking for a change and more of a scheme fit. I loved him coming out of Florida State. I love the way he plays. I love the mindset. I love the dog and the tenacity. And I think he's someone that you could build a cornerback room around. Maybe Banks goes to CB2 and Asante Samuel Jr. is CB1. He hasn't played all that good this year. Last year he was really good, though. A coverage grade north of 75 and a defensive grade of 73.9. He's a good football player. I don't know if he's a great football player, but he is someone that I don't think has scratched the surface of who he can be. I think there is still room for him to project and get better, and I don't mind adding a former first-round pick that's still just 25 years old that I still think has a long way and can improve and has already played at a solid level in this league. We've gone through 5 positions on today's show. I've named my top target at all those positions. Now I want to hear from you. Name a free agent you want the Giants to sign in the comments section. And make sure you are following me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, at @MarshallGreen_. Would really appreciate it if you gave me a follow. And once you do, send me a DM and let's talk some football.